Rahim. I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. Welcome to another Quran study, brothers and sisters. We will start, God willing, today from verse 48. The title of the verse is Victory, and it goes 48:1. We have bestowed upon you, O Messenger, great victory. And the footnote says, this profound statement consists of 19 letters, indicating that our generation is the generation of victory for God's purified, unified, and consolidated religion, submission. We can also read 3:19 and 3:85. It is our generation that witnessed the revelations of God's great miracle in the Quran, Appendix 1. So the verse 3, Surah 3, verse 19 goes, the only religion approved by God is submission. Ironically, those who have received the scripture are the ones who dispute this fact, despite the knowledge they have received due to jealousy. For such rejectors of God's revelations, God is most strict in reckoning. And in 385, we read, only one religion approved by God, that's the title, and it says, anyone who accepts other than submission as his religion, it will not be accepted from him, and in the hereafter he will be with the losers. So the verses are very clear. There is no second option, and God gave us one option, and he says the only religion that is acceptable is submission. So if you want to be saved and if you want to go to heaven and be close to God, the only way is submission. And God sent us a book where He clearly explains us all the things that we should know about it. You know, I had a few days ago a discussion with one of the guys whom I'm working with, and the discussion was about if it's possible that there could be more gods instead of one God. So the idea is so strange that people, they want to reject it, right? They want to reject the message that God is sending, and they go towards very strange things, like you don't even believe that there is a God. So they are going towards believing in more than one God. That seems more believable for them. So I invited them to look at the Quran and talk a little bit about the message that God is giving and the evidence of 19. And if someone is truly searching for the truth, then it should be sufficient enough, and it should be enough for those people to see the truth that God has sent us through the Quran. And 48:2 says, whereby God forgives your past sins as well as future sins, and perfects His blessings upon you and guides you in a straight path. So God is forgiving and perfecting blessings upon the believers, and this means that even if a person has made mistakes in the past or made mistakes in the future, God is willing to forgive them and continue to guide them on the straight path. And this path leads to salvation, righteousness, and the ultimate success in this life and the hereafter, of course. 48:3 says, additionally, God will support you with an unwavering support. So not only does God forgive the sins of the believers and guide them on the straight path, but He also provides them with unwavering support. And this means that God's support is strong, and it's constant and not swayed or affected by external factors. So this is a powerful source of strength and also a security for the believers, as we can rely. We can rely on it all the times. And this unwavering support of God will help believers to overcome and any challenges they may face in their lives, and ultimately lead them to success. So you have the support of God, who is all-knowing, and He created everything and He controls everything. So having this security you know, it's an assurance of God, and you have the security of Him. And this is a step towards the perfect happiness that God explains in the Quran. And how it goes is like putting your trust into God. That is very important. And you can do that actually if you know the the true meaning of what God really is and what He is capable of. If you truly understand this, if you truly know what God is and what He's capable of and what He can do, then you will really understand what He is, and then this will give you the security in this life and in the hereafter. You know, who is a better helper than a God? All right, if if God is on your side, who can win actually? Um, who can win from you? That's correct. So this is very important to understand that God is on the side of the believers, and God promises the believers to support them. In 4 it says, He is the one who places contentment into the hearts of believers to augment more faith, in addition to their faith. So to God belongs all forces of the heavens and the earth. God is omniscient, most wise. So God is the one who places contentment or peace into the hearts of the believers, and this contentment augments or increases the faith of the believers beyond what they already have. And when a person feels content, they are better able to focus on their faith and put their trust in God. And God is the one who holds all the forces of the heavens and the earth, it says, and God is all powerful and has control over everything that exists and that He has created. And God is the one who provides the inner peace and contentment to the believers, and this peace will increase their faith. In 5 it says, He will certainly admit the believing men and women into gardens with flowing streams, wherein they abide forever. He will remit their sins. This is, in the sight of God, a great triumph. So God will certainly admit the believing men and women into gardens with flowing stream, which is an allegorical image of paradise. And this is a reward for those who have believed and followed God's teachings, and they will abide therein forever. It is a permanent dwelling. It's not ending, like hell is also not ending. It's when you deserve to go to hell, then you will stay there forever. And when you go to heaven, you will also stay there forever. So imagine that. What kind of a blessing it is that God will give you the permission to go to heaven. It's like the best thing that can happen to any person. The messenger of the covenant, he also explains that if you play the lottery, for example, and you are looking at the numbers, and the first number is the correct one, the second one, the third one, and the sixth one, and goes on and on. You start to feel very special, and you start to feel maybe very happy, because the chances that you are going to win become higher and higher. And we know that just a few people that come to this world are gonna go to heaven. Most of the people, they are not. Even most of the believers, God says in the Quran that I believe it's Surah Joseph, where He says most of the people, whatever you do, they will not believe. And in another verse, in same Surah Yusuf, He says most of the believers, they believe only with idolatry. And so most of the people, they will go to hell, and just a few people will go to heaven. So if you are one of those who will go to heaven, to paradise, then this means that this is a very great blessing of God, because it is eternal. That's actually what makes it extremely special. You have only two places to go, and if you go to hell, it's eternal hell. This should be actually, for someone who really thinks about it, who really would use some time to think about it, they should understand that eternal hell is not a game. Like, it's extremely serious. So in our actions, we should be careful. We should be very, very careful. And that's why, one of the other things is we have the Quran, right? The Quran is such a book that will guide the ones who really wanted to be guided, uh, uh, put them in the right path, right? So, like, who knows what the right path is? Who says that that is the right path? And we have a book which is from God. We have the evidence that this book is truly from God, that every letter, every word is truly from God. So that confidence, we are confident in that. Because we have a physical evidence, we have a physical proof that the messages that are given in this book are truly from God. So, with this said, what is more smarter to do than follow that which is written in this book? Because it is from God. And God is the one who knows everything. He knows the right path, right? And He guides us to the right path. And this life is like very short. It's not like very, very long. We don't have thousands of years, like a few thousands of years to think about it, or, to act or do anything in this world, whatever we want. So it's like, and besides that, it's very short. We don't know when our life will end. So maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's after a week, or maybe after a year. We don't know. So we shouldn't waste time. We should, in a moment where a human being is at an age where the thoughts about, like, thoughts about who am I, what am I doing here, why do we exist, does God exist, is there evidence, this kind of questions, pop up to a lot of people, and they go into search. They want to know what the truth is, right? They ask questions about it. So at that point, when you start thinking about it, God sends you some signs, because God says that He guides the ones who want to be guided. So if you're a person who truly wants to be guided and ask, for guidance, and you really want to know what the truth is, God is going to send you some signs. For every person, can that be a different kind of a sign, depending on where you live, who you are, who your family is, and that kind of things, and in which country you are, for example. So God will send you those signs, and if you are really truthful, you should see the signs, and after seeing the proof, you should also believe in it. And if you don't, then in eternal hell awaits the people who are not truthful, and waits the people who don't want to be guided, actually. And God is not the one who is sending them to hell, right? It's actually they themselves. They are sending them to hell because of their deeds and untruthfulness. So God rewards the believers with eternal life in paradise, and also forgives their sins. And this is a message of hope for the believers, and that God's mercy is always present and available for them. We can always ask for forgiveness, and there's always hope, and God says that He will forgive us. But there's also one thing that it's not that you are going to do sin and then you ask for forgiveness, and then you are going to sin again, ask for forgiveness again for the same sin, and then do it over and over again. That's not the idea. Like, because if you have asked for forgiveness, it's not like only asking for forgiveness. You should also say that you are not going to commit that sin anymore, and then you should be sincere about it, right? If you commit a sin and you really regret it and you promise not to do it again, then you should keep your word. If you don't keep your word and you do it over and over again, and then you ask over and over again for forgiveness, this means, this is actually a proof that you are not sincere in your regret. You are not really regretful. It's not sincere what you're doing. So, and because it's not sincere, why should it work? Why should God then forgive you? God promises to forgive the sincere, because we are human beings and we can make some mistakes. And we know that God is most merciful, most gracious, and of course we will ask for forgiveness, but we also need to know that when we do a sin, we need to regret, and we never should do it again. We need to be sincere about it. 6. And he will requite the hypocrite man and woman and the idol worshipping men and women, for they have harbored evil thoughts about God. Their evil will backfire against them, for God is angry with them, condemns them, and has prepared for them Gehenna. What a miserable destiny. So God will requite or punish the hypocrite men and women and the idol worshipping men and women. And these groups of people are considered to be those who harbored evil thoughts about God, and they have not truly believed in Him, or they have pretended to believe in Him while secretly rejecting His teachings. So that's actually a worse thing, right? So you have people who say that they don't believe in the message, but you have also people who say that they believe in the message, but secretly they really don't believe in it. And those are the hypocrites, and they will go to the worst. They will get the worst punishment because they are the worst people. God says in the Quran that the hypocrites are the worst people. Because someone, if someone doesn't believe, and he says, like, I don't believe, and he really doesn't believe, he's at least honest in what he's thinking and what he's saying. But as a hypocrite, saying that they believe while they don't believe, that's really, of course, not honest, and they will have the worst retribution, and their evil thoughts and actions will backfire against them. So that means that the harm they caused will ultimately harm themselves, and this is because God is angry with them. He condemns them, and God says that He prepared Gehenna for them. And Gehenna is a place of punishment. It's a miserable destiny, as it is a place of eternal suffering, non-stopping eternal suffering. Can you imagine, like, there will be a time when people will go to Gehenna, and from that moment, it's never going to end. Like, why take the risk, right? In this short time, you have also a lot of people, they are acting in a way because they can profit from something, right? It's about money maybe, and they can profit from it, And even if you can profit from it in this life, it's not going to stay forever, right? It's going to end one day. It's not eternal, but the hereafter is eternal. So it's really strange that some people don't really, you have people, they don't even think about God, they don't even think about religion, they don't even think about like any of these things, and they are only interested in this worldly life, living their life, trying to make fun and trying to make the best of it, of this life. But every day you can see that people are dying, right? The parents are dying, uncles are dying, young people, old people are dying, your friends are dying, neighbors are dying, people are dying. And from that, what we know is, I don't know that if there is someone still alive and who is 300 years old or 200 years old, they are all dead. And eventually everyone is going to die. So the smart thing is actually to truly think about it, and to make a decision about it, even if you're not going to believe, right? Take some time, think about it, because you have a lot of people, they really don't think about it. When you talk about them about religion, or ask them if they believe in God or if they believe in anything, they say, yeah, I don't really think about it. Okay, but for how long are you going to stop thinking about it? When is the time gonna come when you're going to think about it? Maybe never, probably never. It can be because they are, I wouldn't say really afraid, but maybe they don't want to take the responsibility. But not taking responsibility doesn't mean that you are not responsible. So maybe they are thinking to say to God, like, okay, but I didn't know. Maybe they are going to say, I didn't know, because they didn't do any research, right? Why didn't they do research? Because they didn't want to be held responsible. Because if they do research, and and they see that there is God, they are going to be held responsible. Maybe that's the way how they are thinking. But in any case, it doesn't matter what you think. you are going to be held responsible, because God asks the souls, right? He asks if we want to be tested or not. And God says in the Quran that, for example, the mountains and the sun and the moon, they didn't want to be tested. The human wanted to be tested. So God asked every one of us if we wanted to be tested or not. And the ones who wanted to be tested, they came to this earth, uh, and it was their own choice. So it was our own choice. So we can't say, yeah, I didn't want this. You have also a lot of people, they're asking like, okay, I'm living in this world, but God didn't ask me. He just sent me to this. But we now know from the message that God has sent and from the messenger of the covenant that God actually asked everyone and each one if they wanted to be tested or not. So that question is also answered by God. So those who pretend to believe in God but secretly reject Him, or those who worship other gods, they will be punished by God, of course. And their evil thoughts and actions will backfire against them, and they will be condemned to eternal suffering in Gehenna. And this is a warning for those who do not truly believe in God, and a reminder for the believers to stay true to their faith. 48:7. To God belongs all the forces in the heavens and the earth. God is Almighty, most wise. So God is the one who holds all the forces in the heavens and the earth. This means that He has the complete control, and He has all authority over everything that exists in the universe. So this is a reminder that He is the creator and sustainer of all things, and that nothing happens without His permission. Everything that happens only with the permission of God. And God is Almighty, all powerful, and has the ability to do anything He wills. 48:8. We have sent you a witness, a bearer of good news, and a warner. We have sent you as a witness, a bearer of good news, and a warner, that you people may believe in God and His messenger and His messenger, and reference Him and observe Him and glorify Him day and night. So as a witness, the messenger is expected to give the testimony and to provide the evidence of the truth of the message he is delivering. And this is to authenticate the message and the messenger himself. So God is sending a messenger. His job is to be a witness, and He gives him the proofs that he is a messenger of God, and that the message that he is giving is truly from God. So God, it's not like that God sends something without any proof. God sends also the proofs together with the messenger. So as a bearer of good news, it's his job to bring the message of hope and salvation to the people, which is the news of God's mercy and forgiveness and promise of eternal life. And God says that He's also a warner, and His job is to inform the people of the consequences of not accepting the message and not following the teachings of God. So this is to remind the people of the importance of repentance and the need to follow God's commandments. Like, He is a witness, He comes with a message and a proof. He brings good news, right, for the people, and He says if you do these things that God commands, you will be guided. And He is also a warner, so to warn the people that if they don't follow the commandments of God, they will end up in Gehenna, in hell. So altogether, we could say that the purpose of the messenger is to tell the people to believe in God and the message, to reference Him and observe His commandments, and to glorify Him day and night. So this means that the messenger's role is to lead the people to a deeper understanding and appreciation of God, and to encourage them to follow God's teachings and worship Him constantly. So while I was reading this verse and thinking about it, is that if we look back to what Dr. Rashad did, if you look at his videos, the things that he has wrote, and we can see all these things, right? We can see that the messenger of the covenant, he had the proof that he was the messenger of God. He came with a message. The secrets of the Quran was revealed to him, and he came with the proof of it. He showed the people the proof of the message that he got from God, and he warned the people about, he told all the things that are in the Quran, explaining them what all those verses meant, what the truly characteristics are of God, and what God really is. Telling us about that God is doing everything, and that we should, that if you don't believe in this, that you don't really know God, and because you don't really know God, you can't really believe in Him, and that this message is very important, that God is really doing and running everything. And he gave also, of course, the warnings about if you don't believe in Him, what will happen to it. 48:10. You shall support God's messenger. Surely, those who pledge allegiance to you are pledging allegiance to God. God approves their pledge. He places His hand above their hands. Those who violate such a pledge commit the violation to their own detriment. As for those who fulfill their pledge with God, He will grant them a great recompense. So, those who pledge allegiance to the messenger of God are, in fact, pledging allegiance to God Himself. So this is because the messenger is a representative of God, and his message is from God. So therefore, when they play allegiance to the messenger, they are pledging to follow God and obey His teachings. And God approves of this pledge, because He says He places His hand above the hands of those who make the pledge, indicating His protection and support for them. So this is a reminder that those who follow the messenger and the message of God will have God's support and guidance. However, those who violate the pledge by breaking it and not fulfilling it will commit the violation to their own detriment. They will harm themselves by going against God's teachings and disregarding the pledge they made. And on the other hand, those who fulfill their pledge with God will be rewarded greatly. They will be rewarded for their obedience and faithfulness to God and His message. 11. The sedentary Arabs who stay behind will say, "We have been preoccupied with our money and our families, so ask forgiveness for us." They utter with their tongue what is not in their hearts. Say, "Who can protect you from God? If He willed any adversity for you, or if He willed any blessing for you, God is fully cognizant of everything you do." So this verse is speaking about these people, the sedentary Arabs, who stay behind during the times of conflict and war. And these people claim that they have stayed behind to take care of the money and their families. And they are asking the prophet or the prophet to ask forgiveness for them. So these people, they are not truthful, of course, and God knows what is really in their mind. They are like God says that they are uttering with their tongues what not really is in their hearts, and God knows this. So like these people, they are hypocrites, right? They say that they believe, but they don't really believe. That means that actually don't believe really in God, right? But God knows everything. God knows what is in their hearts. And these verses are Quran verses. It's not like that God said this to Muhammad and only Muhammad knew it. These are like Quran verses. These are written down. So, and these are the things that the Prophet told the people at the time. So exposing them actually. So these people are coming to him. They are telling to them, "Yeah, we didn't come because we were busy with the money issues and we were with our families, etc. Please ask for forgiveness for us." But they are not really sincere, right? And God says that they are not sincere because they just say it. And so this means that they are not genuinely asking for forgiveness, but rather they are saying it for appearance sake. So no one can protect them from God. And if He wills any blessings for them, He can give. But if He wills any adversity, like it says in the Quran, it is God. God is the one who decides, right? And He is the best decision maker, we can say. So God knows their true intentions and actions, and He is aware of their hypocrisy. And because this is a Quran verse, it's a verse in the Quran, meaning that God sent this message to the Prophet, and everyone could read it, right? Everyone could read these verses, and they could say, because in one of the videos of Dr. Rashad, he says that one of the tricks of Satan is to say, don't judge, only God judges. And he shows the Quran and he says, we have the Quran, we can judge because we have the Quran. And the other name of Quran is Furqan, meaning judge, I believe, right? The one who uh, what was the name?
Distinguished.
Yeah, distinguished. Sorry, yes, the distinguished, right? So here we can clearly see that God, He's telling that these people are hypocrites. So if we would be in the same situation and these people would do exactly the same, that will be proof that they are hypocrites, right? If they promise something and if it's really time to prove to prove that you really believe, and we know that the messenger of the covenant says that we are in a new era, we are in a new time. There were times when people were tested with their lives, tested with going towards war. So you should put your life to prove that you are a believer. But in our time, it's not the same. It's like different. We are not going, I believe he said so, right? Please correct me if it's wrong, but he said that we are not going to be tested with our lives because this is a new era, he said. But at that time, people were also tested with their lives. That when war came to them and God says, it's time, you need to fight to protect yourselves, or you need to go to war. And there were some people who didn't go, and that meant actually that they were not real believers. 12. You secretly believe that the messenger and the believers will be defeated and never come back to their families. You secretly believed that the messenger and the believers will be defeated and never come back to their families, and this was firmly established in your hearts. You harbored evil thoughts and turned into wicked people. So this group of people who secretly held the belief that the messenger and the believers would be defeated and never return to their families, right? This belief was firmly established in their hearts. So which means that they held this belief strongly in person. They really wanted them not to come back. They stayed there. Probably the believers were just also as number. They were not. The number was low. Probably the opposite one was more. There were more disbelievers than believers. Let's say, and even within the group, the people who were following the prophet. Even in that group, you had these people, because these people are the hypocrites. So you have the small people who are, who need to go and fight for their lives. Who need to go and fight for the cause of God. Sorry. And so this group becomes smaller. Because you have also a lot of people who are hypocrites, who didn't really come to fight, right? They rejected it. They didn't go for fighting. So then imagine that war is going on and the opposite part is maybe a multiple times bigger than your own group. And the group who are left behind, they really want them not to come back and to die there at war. And these people are the ones who you were living with, right? They spent some time together. 13. Anyone who refuses to believe in God and His messenger, we have prepared for the disbelievers hellfire. So the punishment of hellfire is not punishment from God, but rather a natural consequences. So if someone goes to hell, that means that the person deserved it and he went there with his own legs. He was running towards hell. It's not God who is putting them there, but it's themselves, their actions. They choose to go to hell. So belief in God and His messenger is a choice, and that those who choose not to believe are rejecting the guidance and blessings that God offers. And the verse is not saying that God is punishing people, right? But rather that people are bringing the punishment upon themselves by rejecting God's guidance. To God belongs the sovereignty of the heavens and the earth. He forgives whomever He wills and punishes whomever He wills. God is forgiver, most merciful. So absolute power and authority of God over all things in the universe, and God has complete control over the heavens and the earth, and he is the one who makes the decisions about forgiveness and punishment. He can decide whomever he forgives and whomever he wants to punish. And so God forgives whomever he wills, of course, and he has the power to forgive anyone for their sins and mistakes. And God says in the Quran, right? We can read that a lot of times, that God is merciful and compassionate, and that He is always willing to forgive those who ask for forgiveness, but sincerely. You should be really sincere about that. And God punishes whomever He wills, because He has the power to to punish anyone for their wrongdoings. Because God is merciful, He is most merciful, He is compassionate, but God is also just, right? There is also a justice system that God has, and He can hold people accountable for their actions. And that's also the warning, right? The senditary who stay behind will say, when you are expected to collect spoils of war, let us follow you to share in this. They, though, wish to alter God's words. Say, you will not follow us, this is God's decision. They will then say, you must be envious of us for staying behind. Indeed, they rarely understood anything. So the believers, they went to war, they fought, they won the war, and after winning the war, you have these spoils of war, right? Maybe gold, or the stuff that they gained after winning the war. And the people who who stayed behind after the believers have won it, they asked them if they also could come to take the spoils of war. You know, like they are staying there, you know, thinking that they are protected and they don't have to fight, hoping that the believers are going to die and never come back. But when the believers win and there is some, you know, some gain of it, some money or some things that they could get from the spoils, the spoils, right? Now they want to come and collect it together with them. And they are saying, you know, we stayed here for money issues and to protect our families. And they say that they were believers, but they are truly not. They are hypocrites. Like, you know, you didn't come to fight, right? Why are you asking to go and collect the spoils? Like, this is really, you know, who would say okay to this, right? And why would something say okay to this? Look, I am putting my life to it in cause of God, and we are winning the war. And after winning it, you left behind. You wanted me to be dead, right? You didn't want us to come back. Like, we have also families, right? We have also then children at the moment. Those people, they had also their wives and children. So if you die, what happens to their wives and children? So probably maybe they are thinking, okay, we are when they don't come back, we can take their houses and maybe their wives and children. You know, maybe they were thinking like this. And after that, still they are asking for the spoils. Like, it's very strange how how their head is working, thinking that maybe they are stupid, right? Why should, like, it's very strange. So God instructed the believers to tell them not to follow, right? Because, you know, why should they follow? 16. The test for early generations. Say to the sedentary Arabs who stay behind, you will be invited to face powerful people and to fight them unless they submit. If you obey, God will reward you with a generous recompense. But if you turn away, as you did in the past, He will requite you with a painful retribution. So the message is that they will be faced with powerful adversaries and they will be called to fight them unless they submit. And if they obey and participate in the fight, they will reward with a generous recompense. And on the other hand, if they turn away from the call to fight as they have in the past, they will be punished with a painful retribution from God. And God is the one who holds the sovereignty of the heavens and the earth. Yeah. So they already did before, and God, you know, is warning them again. You did it before, don't do it again. If you fight in the cause of God, God will be generous. He will reward you. But if not so, then there is a painful retribution waiting for you. So be careful with that. 17. The blind is not to be blamed. The crippled is not to be blamed, and the sick is not to be blamed. Those who obey God and His messenger, He will admit them into gardens with flowing streams. As for those who turn away, He will requite them with a painful retribution. So those who are physically impaired or ill should not be held responsible for their ability or inability to participate in battles or other physical tasks. So instead, their obedience of God and His messenger will be what earns them a place in paradise with the flowing streams that um, God says so. He will admit them into gardens with flowing streams. And on the other hand, those who turn away from God and His messenger will be met with painful retribution. And so this is reminding us that it is not the physical ability to ultimately determines one's faith, but rather obedience to God and His teachings, right? So you could have people who are blind or they are crippled and they can't do it, so they are not to be blamed because they don't have the ability to go to war and fight. Maybe they want to go. Maybe if they would have the ability, they maybe would go, right? We don't know, but God knows. So, and that's very important that God, God's decision is also, if I'm not mistaken, God says we look to your intentions. Like if you do a lot of good things, but your intentions are different, like you want to show off, and you have other intentions than what you're truly doing, and God knows that. So, and in the Quran, I don't really remember the exact verse number, but God says that those people, the things that they have done in this world, even the good things that they have done, it's going to be vanished. Like it's going to be deleted. God says that He is going to delete like everything that they have done, and it's not going to be count, not even for 1 ounce, because of their bad intentions. You should be sincere. If there's no sincerity, then it's only show off, right? Or any other thing. Maybe you, by doing that, you try to gain something, and that which you are looking for is not guidance from God, right? Or the mercy of God. It should be in anything that you're doing. It should be um, uh, to to have the mercy from God, right? We should be working for that, to please God, actually. So anything that we do, it should be to please God, because why are we doing this? We want to be very close to God, and we know from God that the best place is the place closest to God. So that should be our intention, right? To remember God so we can be close to Him. God is pleased with the believers who pledged alliance to you under the tree. He knew what was in their hearts, and consequently, He blessed them with contentment and rewarded them with an immediate victory. Additionally, they gained many spoils. God is Almighty, most wise. So God is praising the believers who pledged their alliance to the messenger, to the prophet under a tree, and God knows the hearts of all people and is able to see their true intentions and beliefs, and He's pleased with the believers who made this pledge, and as a result, He blessed them with contentment and rewarded them with an immediate victory. They got the spoils of war, they won the war, and God promised them also the best place in the hereafter. So even those who are physically impaired, such as the blind and the crippled or sick, they will not be held responsible for their inability to participate in the battle. And however, those who disobey God and His messenger will be punished with the painful retribution. So you have these people, they went to war, they won the war, they got the spoils, God promises paradise for them, and the ones who didn't go to war, He says they're going to be punished. They got a chance actually, because God says that you did this once, don't do it again, and you still had people who did that, and people who are crippled and were incapable, God says that He's not keeping them responsible for them not going to war. 20. God has promised you many spoils that you will gain. He thus advanced some benefits for you in this life, and He has withheld the people's hands of aggression against you, and has rendered this a sign for the believers. He though guides you in a straight path. So God has granted them many spoils, which can refer to it's the material wealth, of course, but also the spiritual blessings, right? So the thing is this: every time that you do what God says, this is an addition for for your happiness in this life, and it makes your soul grow. So everything that you do, like remembering God for even 1 second, that is an addition for your soul. It grows your soul. Praying 5 times a day, following the commandments of God, doing them, those help grow your soul. So every small thing that you're doing is helping to growing your soul. So it's not only so it's not only this worldly things that you get, like the spoils of war or anything that you can gain after following the commandments of God, but also actually more important is growing your soul. And we learned from the messenger of the covenant that like the 5 times a day praying is like a good dinner, right? Like a steak, he says, gives an example. You have also snacks like saying Alhamdulillah, praise be to God, saying Inshallah if God wants, or MashaAllah that God wanted this to happen. That kind of things. All those things, they will help grow our souls. 21. As for the group that you could not possibly defeat, God took care of them. God is omnipotent. So it is emphasizing the power and control of God. That meaning that there may be situations or enemies that seem impossible to for you to overcome. Right? But God has the power and ability to take care of it. And God says that probably, the things that they couldn't do, God take care of it. Even if they didn't see it, right? God is arranging it. We know from the example in the Quran that God gives fear in their hearts. So in one of the examples that God is giving is that the enemy, when they were looking towards them, they thought they were much more than they truly were, right? That the believers, let's say the believers were 1,000 men standing there, but the disbelievers, when they were looking at them, maybe they saw 5,000 people, and that made them they were afraid, right? They were afraid after seeing them. They had something in their hearts, like God made them afraid. And actually, while you're having war, right, you need to fight. One of the most important things is actually not to have. You shouldn't be afraid, because if you're afraid, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You are not going to function as normal. And if you're not afraid, then you are going to be probably more focused, because you are not focused on that psychological thing that you are having at the moment, like being afraid can make do people a lot of things, right? Like running away, maybe. And the believers, God strengthens their hearts, so they are the opposite of afraid, right? They are not afraid, so they could concentrate more. They are not afraid in their actions, and maybe that has given an addition for them, a positive addition, like for winning the war. So this is also, of course, a reminder for the believers that God is in control and that the believers should put their trust in Him. Right. Additionally, it's a message of encouragement that even in difficult situations, God is able to guide and protect believers on the straight path. 22. Victory guaranteed for the believers. If the disbelievers, even fought you, they would turn around and flee. They have no Lord and Master. They have no helper. Such is God's system throughout history. And you will find that God's system is unchangeable. So the idea is that if the disbelievers or the non-believers were to ever fight against the believers, they will not be successful. And the disbelievers, they have no Lord or Master to guide them or help them in their fight, and as a result, they would turn and flee. And this has been the system throughout history, and that it will not change. God says this, and God is on the side of the believers, and that they will ultimately be victorious, no matter where you are, and no matter the no matter the numbers, right? Because God promises this. 24. He is the one who withheld their hands of aggression against you and withheld your hands of aggression against them in the valley of Mecca, after he had granted you victory over them. God is seer of everything you do. So the Quran's message is the message of peace and non-aggression, right? Um, God, we don't want aggression. We don't want any war, because one of the things of Islam is peace, right? Peace. We say salam alaikum, for example, in Arabic means peace and blessings be upon you. So, and God intervened to prevent both sides from continuing to act on their aggressive impulses, even after one side has uh, had been granted victory. So God stopped them, right? When they granted victory, God stopped them by going to do more than necessary, actually, because the victory is there, so you don't have to go on. When you need to stop, when it's possible to stop, you really should stop. And even in times of conflict, it's important to strive for peace and to refrain from committing further aggression. This is very important. So when there is war and there is a way of ending the war, you should always go for ending the war, because we should always search for ways to stop the aggression. That's what God wants, and God is aware of all the actions of human beings, and that these actions will be judged accordingly in the afterlife. 25. It is they who disbelieved and barred you from the sacred masjid, and even prevented your offerings from reaching their destinations. There were believing men and women within the enemy camp whom you did not know, and you were about to hurt them unknowingly. God thus admits into his mercy whomever he wills. If they persist, he will requite those among them who disbelieve with a painful retribution. So the believers were being prevented from practicing their faith by these disbelievers, and especially they were being barred from accessing the masjid. They were not allowed to go into the sacred masjid, and the offerings that they made, probably the things that they would give to poor people, maybe they will prevent it from reaching their intended destination. And there were believing men and women among the enemy camp who the believers did not know about, and that they were in danger of hurting them unknowingly. So it is possible, and we learn this from this Quran verse, that you are having war with the opposite, but God says that there were people who were believers in the enemy camp, and maybe it's possible that they were afraid, right? Like, there is war, you're not going to scream and tell that you're a believer and that you're going to fight with them while you have a lot of people around you. So it's not like that God says that you should throw yourself into fire. That's not the thing. We shouldn't throw ourselves into fire. We should be cautious and careful about it, and you should act smartly, right? Don't do stupid things like it's not a smart thing to do while in enemy area. You're all alone, unprotected. You should be quiet, of course, and try to find a way to go out, maybe. But the people who are on the other side, they don't know about these people, right? But God knows. So God also protected them of accidentally hurting the believers. And God knows who the believers are. So even in these complicated situations, God is protecting you. He is arranging everything. This shows clearly that God is really doing everything, and He's the only one who can do anything at all, actually, and He controls it. So God is merciful, and that He admits into His mercy whomever He wills, even if they are part of a group that is actively sorry, even if you are in enemy line, right, still God is going to protect you. This is what I understand from this verse. So we should trust God and believe in Him, and know that He controls everything. So I will, God willing, stop here. If there are any questions or anything that you guys want to add, please go.
MashaAllah, thank you.
MashaAllah, thank you.
What is the total minutes? Do you know, Sulaiman? I hope it's not over 40.
It most likely is over 40
Okay.
at 54 minutes,
Oh, okay.
actually.
wasn't paying attention.
Okay.
MashaAllah, brother.
You know, what we have actually is like one of the brothers. When it's 40 minutes, he tells me it's almost 40. Then I go faster. But okay.
So
Can you hear me?
Yes, brother, we can hear you.
Okay, I think sometimes this microphone not working. For example, I think John is talking right now, but I couldn't hear him.
I didn't hear John.
Brother John, are you talking?
No, John is not talking.
I think now he's talking, but I can't hear him because he just unmuted.
Yeah, we can hear John. Maybe John, you can rejoin if you are trying to talk. It's logging in out.
I'll do the same thing. Let me do it.
No, you can. You don't have to log out because we can hear you.
He's gone, brother.
Mic check, mic check.
We can hear you, Selam.
Okay.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
Mike also.
Okay, MashaAllah. Thank you, Jafar, brother. Last lesson we were talking about this era is different than the time that Prophet Muhammad was in the war, and Quran is showing us those times, teaching us. So can we repeat that part? Like, what kind of era we are in? What kind of war? Like, can we say war? Like, are we dealing with a war right now for this era that we are living in?
No, we don't have like physical wars. You know, I mean, this was a test for the early generations. So we don't have physical wars, right? But you may have situations where you may be forced to take a stand. You know, like for example, look at the Messenger of the Covenant. You know, his life, and so he had to face people. I mean, he was threatened by people. They were enemies. They were hypocrites. I mean, things happened. You know, obviously they were trying to kill him, and things were going on. You know, but it wasn't a physical war, right? They were still trying to, you know, subdue the message. They were still trying to spread disinformation, spread lies. You know, spread rumors. You know, file bogus accusations and, you know, legal battles and things like that against them. So there was a lot going on, but it wasn't a physical war. but there was a lot of activity. There were a lot of activities going on. So in the same manner, you know, we don't. It's a free. We live in a free society, so we don't really have physical wars now as we did in the past. But you know, people will still continue to be tested by these situations. You know, you will come across, you know, disbelievers, hypocrites. They'll scheme against the believers. You know, they'll attack them. You know, and people will be forced to fight or take action, or you know, be their qualities will be exposed. So things like that will. I mean, the concept remains the same. Basically, you know, that's the idea.
Mashallah, thank you. So, can we say like we are having mind wars sometimes in society, kind of like in a group of people as a submitter?
Mm-hmm.
I
Exactly.
come
Yeah.
across I come
Mhm.
across with the ideas, kind of like
Mhm.
you know, like their umbrella is kind of like
Yeah. Mhm.
postmodernism, if you wanna
Yeah.
say like that.
Yeah, exactly. That reminds me exactly. I think that's what how exactly the Master of the Covenant described it. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mashallah. So I am
So.
kind of
Intellectually.
trying to aware of the situation because whenever I'm in a dinner, you know, with people, or I'm in society, I am coming across with this war, and of course it's not a physical war, but you know, like our work is in the war. Like I have to tell them. I feel like I have to tell them, brother, you are wrong. Like when you just said LGBT, you support it, and I'm telling you it's wrong. And you know, I'm trying to be in a possible manner, but my whole body is kind of like, well, I feel something in my body that I have to tell this thing to them, so they will be aware of the situation. So, like, but they are insist to tell, well, like, why you are saying this? We are in a society, and you cannot say that. Well, I am not telling this. I am just like telling you there's a huge proof behind my statement, which is like it's coming from Quran. It's a final testament from God, and I'm trying to remember them. There was a there was a there was people in a community that they were dealing with the situation, and they wiped off from the earth. So they were wrong. These
Which
actions
situation?
are wrong.
Which situation?
The Hud, Prophet Hud, and sure, Lut, Prophet Lut, the people of Hud, right? Am I, if I'm not on.
Sodom and Gomorrah. Yes.
So,
Yeah, what's the
like,
topic
you know,
about? Is it about them being that kind of people?
they are supporting, you know, like my generation, we are young, they are trying to support this society. They are kind of like making it softer
Oh,
in
you mean like
LGBT topic.
LGBT, that kind of things? Oh, that kind of situations. Okay.
Yeah, and they want to support this understanding, even though I'm telling them this is wrong.
Who are these people? These are your friends?
They are my friends' friends. I am in their social
Okay.
circle.
Okay. So, like, they're telling you, don't say it's wrong.
Yeah, they are like kind of judging me as a person who belongs to really like 30s, 40s, or like really religious. I mean, they are kind of feeling that I am an old man, you know,
Old
like
school.
I have no, like, as if I don't know anything
Mm-hmm.
about the technology, or about the, you know, like they call boomer actually, those kind of people. They have this name. Uh,
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a strange way of describing it,
Yeah, but God
but
says that they will give you
you're doing the
names
right
also.
thing. I mean, mashallah. You know. I mean, God. You know, says that you know, you have to talk to these people out of it, right? And if you just go along with it, you're silent about it. You're part of those people that are actually approving it. So when God says that, beware of the retribution that may not be limited to the evildoers among you, right? Now, you're not the evildoer, but, if you have things like that around you and you're accepting of it and approving of it, and you're not saying anything, like, for example, the Messenger of the Covenant says, you should talk these people out of it, you need to talk them out of it. So, I mean, and he understood even at that time also, like, during his time also, all these community, LGBT, whatever, they were all fighting for their quote-unquote rights at that time also, and so they were making it really oppressive for people to, say anything. They just had to be okay with it, They wanted people to be okay with it and not say anything, so they could spread these things. But he said you chop them out of it, So yeah, it's you do the right thing. I mean, the thing is, like, you can never please anybody, anyways, right? Everybody, people will always have an opinion one way or another about you, But you have to do what pleases God, and really, at the end of the day, what God thinks of us, whether we did the right thing or not, is what really matters, We're obviously not here to impress other people, But I mean, if people want to think that you're old-fashioned, let them think that, Obviously, they will know on the day of judgment. Yeah.
Yeah, and there is this verse in the Quran, brother, where God says to the messenger that, they are actually not rejecting him, but they are actually rejecting the message of God. So it's not you who they are rejecting, actually. They are rejecting the message. So they are rejecting God eventually.
And also another point is that, like, it's not just for the LGBTQ idea or the homosexuality, which is definitely condemned by God Almighty. It's just about anything you do that has to do with religion, People who are evil, the wicked souls, even if when you are, doing your prayers, they look at you as a 60-year-old or 70-year-old, They don't think it's something that God has commanded and think like you are wasting your time. And mashallah, we don't care about what they say, because if you look at Surah 39, verse 33 to 35, God says, A'udhu billah minash shaitan rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, Quran, absolute truth. As for those who promote the truth and believe therein, they are the righteous. They will get everything they wish at their Lord. Such is the reward for the righteous. God remits their sinful works and rewards them generously for their good works. And subhanAllah, that's what we want. That we want happiness here and in the hereafter, and we want our Lord to be pleased with us. And even if it makes the disbelievers, displeased, or they don't like it, and we don't care, mashallah. And that's wonderful that you are, telling these things, even if they don't like it.
Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, yeah, actually, man, it's funny y'all talk about that, because I had something like that happen to me last night. An old friend, or he's not a friend, from a few years back, he called me up, or he texted me, and I decided to, he just wanted to see how I was doing. And I said, fine, and he calls me, and basically, he was still caught up, like, I guess in a few, not good things, and he's just telling me these things, like, inadvertently, and I felt like part of me wanted to, like, exactly what y'all are talking about, what even Surah 2, I think verse 159 or 160 talks about how, you have to proclaim, and like, once guidance has come to you, you have to tell people. And even in Surah 74, we have to forsake what is wrong. And I feel like I didn't do that good enough with him on the phone last night. I don't know exactly why. I mean, maybe part of me wasn't sure he was going to take heed, but it's still my responsibility. But yeah, after we got off the phone, I kind of ended the call short with him. I had just a very bad feeling, like very convicted, and I repented, for that, because I think God was telling me, this is we have to openly forbid evil, if people like Brother Salami did, even if you're rejected by these people, or they might think you're crazy, you're misguided, or oh, he's whatever, it doesn't matter, Brother Suleiman just said, it matters what God thinks of us, not some human being, like, but no, that's just something I wanted to bring up, I repented for it. I didn't think I did good enough, but that's something I'm currently, it's easy to, I guess, do with relatives and stuff, or close friends, but just I guess some people, out of for whatever reason, I didn't feel like my warning was strong enough, or basically what y'all were just saying, forsake what's wrong. I just got this really, really kind of bad feeling afterwards, and so I ended up following up with a text message, of just kind of basically telling him what I originally wanted to tell him. That's all. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and I think if you want to look at it from the perspective of someone being old-fashioned, I mean, think about it. I think, like, you're the one who is more, future-oriented and thinking about the future. You're more in tune with the future because you know what's going to happen. So these people are the ones who are, old-fashioned, and when they look at on the day of judgment, what they have done and what are the things they did and now what they have to live with, they will know who are the people who are, like old-fashioned. So, subhanAllah, I mean, the thing is that, Satan will always try to defame God and, make religion look like, it's something like out of the Stone Ages, and like God says, but this is what the disbelievers, think. Like this is what they see. They look at it and they see it like they call it tales from the past, right? So it's all like doesn't make any sense to people, right? But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, what you're doing for your soul is what matters the most, So I would not even care about, how you're being perceived by these people at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, the messenger, he says also in one of his videos talking about saying inshallah, right? He says that the people around you, they are going to be surprised, but eventually they are going to respect you. So I would say just keep doing what you're doing, and eventually, they will see that you are a truthful person, and they will respect you, God willing.
And there is one thing that actually. Go ahead, brother.
Sorry. No, I'm saying, yeah, but I'm saying like okay, your boss and stuff may respect you when you say God willing and you do your Friday prayer. He will respect you and God will make it up to you, But obviously, not everybody will warm up to it, right? I mean, there will obviously be people that think you're nuts. So, I mean, for those people, right? You don't have to worry because, it's simply people who are disbelievers, right? So, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and there's this thing that like what I'm saying is a comment on what Brother John said. Is that I remember in one of the videos of Dr. Rashad Khalifa, I think it was video number 45, that conference, that he mentioned that, okay, so you mentioned that there are such situations that some people come to you and then you are like full of ideas, full of the verses, like what you want to exactly say. And sometimes it happens that there are some people who, Brother Suleiman, could you please mute? I mean, there's a lot of, that's okay.
It is.
It's yeah, thank you.
It's
And then
Suleiman.
there are like those people who come to you, and then you like full of bright ideas, full of like all the information is flowing to you, and you can say all the right verses, and there are those people who come to you and then you just don't have any idea, like you look stupid, you know, it looks like you're just blocked and there's nothing that you can tell them. So basically, as we have it in Surah 22, the last verse, the messenger of God is actually a witness among us, and we should be witness among the people. But the point is that we are not responsible for the guidance of the people, you know. So you want to tell the people, it could be like your best friend, it could be an old friend, it could be your colleague, it could be your family members. So you tell them, and you tell them strictly, like you say it like seriously, you say that, okay, this is it. And if like it doesn't work, for example, one time, I think that we can do it again, you know. So like if the first time doesn't work, you think that you didn't do a good job, so prepare yourself, like actively prepare yourself with the verses that you wanted to say at that moment, but they didn't come up. And after you ended the phone call, all the ideas like started to flow. So write down all those things, prepare yourself, and then contact them again and tell them that this is it, you know. And whatever they want to think of you or of the message or of God or anything, it's up to them. It's not up to us, you know. And if it is willed for them to be guided by God, they are lucky. I mean, then they will be guided. And if they are not, they won't, you know. So, and the messenger also in many places said that like there are those people that you talk to them like just instantly, you know, they get the message, you know. There could be doubts, but then they're not averse to it, you know, in the first place, you know. They listen to you. Many people have even problem with mathematics, you know, like when you start telling them that, okay, there are these numbers in Quran, and if you look at them, they're like all mathematically structured, then these people are averse to it because they hear the word Quran, you know. So they are just like averse to the idea of being guided, you know, and one God and worshiping one God. And as we are talking, like they think that this is like an idea of the Stone Ages, or many Iranians, you know, are averse to the idea of like religion, and they think that it belongs to Arabs. But they are completely wrong. You know, they have no idea what we are talking about. They think that we are talking about the same thing that all those corrupted Muslim countries are talking about day in, day out. That's not what we are talking about. But they're completely averse. And it's their bad luck. It's their tough luck that they are not listening. And they are blocked from listening, you know. But we can, I mean, if you feel the urge to tell people, you can tell them. But there is a certain time that comes that you feel like, okay, if this person is supposed to take heed, the person will take heed. If not, they will go back to worshiping whatever idol they are worshiping. But then we shouldn't be, like, I think, piggying back on what Brother Salami said, we shouldn't be under this fear of peer pressure, what people think about us. Let them think whatever they want to think about us. The only thing that matters is what God thinks about us. Because those people are not the people, yes, those people are not the people who are providing provision for you. Those people are not the people who provide you with job, with health, with money, with opportunity, with happiness, with they can't even control their bladders, you know. So what are you afraid of, those people? You are afraid that they want to hush you out of their social network. Let them hush you out. God will give you better friends, you know. So like all the situations will be put in the correct way, that you get away from bad people, get away from bad information, and then you will be in the circle of good people, good information, the people who think the same as you do, you know. Okay, they think that you are old-fashioned, or they think that you are old. Okay, let them be young, you know. You take the defeated side, and you don't have to just, you know, try to actually convince them or anything. You know, I think yes, and the brother Jafar sent me a message. Okay. Yeah. No, I didn't think that Brother Salami is afraid. No, I'm saying that like probably with the case of Brother John and Brother Salami, they were trying probably to give the warning or give the heed to the people, but it's like it's not up to you guys for them to be guided.
That's
you know?
true. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, you can just tell them. I mean, and if you think that, like again, going back to what Brother John said, if you think that you didn't do a good job, prepare yourself, go back to them, talk to them if you feel the urge to do that, and tell them, and that's it. The rest is up. Yeah, the rest is up to God, and then God is the only being that gives us guidance, you know. And may God bless you guys, and may God help us to stay on this path. MashaAllah.
Inshallah, mashallah. Yeah, I just checking the Surah number 6, verse 33. I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. We know that you may be saddened by what they say. You should know that it is not you that they reject. It is God's revelations that the wicked disregard.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Yes, exactly. Their problem is with God. You know, their problem is not with you. Their problem is, as Brother Jafar mentioned, their problem is with worshiping one God. And I have many colleagues that I have told them the message, but each and every one of them individually have their own ideas, you know. They believe in what they want to believe, you know. And they say that we believe in science, but then when you talk about the science and you talk about, for example, mathematics, and when you talk about the ideas about creation and evolution, they want to be averse to it, you know, for whatever reason. They don't want to accept it, you know. They just want to believe in what they want to believe. So, and then if you look at it again, it goes back to the idea of worshiping several gods, you know, several idols. They don't want to put all the power and all the provisions and everything in one being, you know, namely God, you know. They don't want to do that. They're averse to this idea. And everything, I mean, if you look at it, everything goes back to the same idea. If you go back to the feud, you know, billions and billions and billions of years ago, before the creation of the seventh universe, what happened? You know, we because of the same reason, we became human, right? We didn't believe that God is the omnipotent, the omniscient, and God has the absolute authority. We were just like, maybe Satan can do it as well. So we had that idea as well. That's why we became human. So now you see the manifestation here, like with the people. And mashallah, I mean, we are trying, and may God help us to put all the thoughts and all the worship for one God, you know. I mean, and not just put it for different idols, you know. I hope I could explain it, mashallah.
MashaAllah. So I wanted to add something to it. So, you know, there are, of course, a lot of people around us, and we are trying to give the message to them. And, you know, in the first years, it's like because we know that this is the truth, and we want to try to convince them, let's say, because we know that this is true, and we want them to believe as well. But what happens is, like, if you try for a very long time, you know, the people who are not really close to you, you don't see really often. You know, that doesn't really hurt. But when someone is very close to you and you really want them to believe, and they still don't believe, that can be hurtful at the first in the first times maybe. But then what happens is you start to realize that, you know, if God doesn't guide someone, there is a reason, right? And God knows who really deserves to be guided and not to be guided.
Yes,
so our
yes.
job is to, you know, I do really understand the idea of being how do you call it? Like if it's a family member, you're really like if it's your children or your wife or your husband, you want them to go to heaven, right? You want them to be guided so much, and if they are not, after a lot of years and God doesn't give them guidance, then we should understand that it is God who is not um, giving it because they probably don't deserve it, and we should
Mashallah.
maybe let go, that feeling. I don't know, like and understand and accept it maybe, and leave it up to God.
And we have to submit, exactly. We have to
Yeah.
submit to this idea that guidance is coming from God.
Yeah.
And because they are like our family members doesn't mean that they are supposed to go to heaven.
Yes.
And that's what happened to the family of prophets,
Yeah, to Noah, right?
Prophet Noah, wife and son.
Yeah.
Prophet Abraham, his father,
Abraham, yeah.
Prophet Muhammad, his uncle, and many other people around him. Lot, so his wife. So we have to accept that,
And that takes
Yeah,
time.
mashallah.
I think that's the
Exactly.
main thing. It takes some time because I had this thing, going for a long time, and after some time, thinking about it, we really need to realize that God is the most merciful one. We can never be more merciful than God. He's the most merciful one. So, and if He
Mashallah.
decides to do something, like we should be able to, like you said, Brother Masood, submit to His will
Yes.
in accordance with this topic. It's
Yes,
hard,
and,
but yeah,
Yes. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try, We can try as many times as we want, but then again, if we are doing a good job and we are explaining everything correctly and we are trying to say it in the best way, in the best manner possible, in the clearest language, but if they don't take heed, so that's it, So it's not up to us to, do you want to guide people who I'm paraphrasing obviously from Quran, that God sent astray, so we can't do anything about them. So, yeah.
Also, I want to say,
Okay, so Brother Suleiman, inshallah he will join again. Yes. I totally agree with what you're saying, Brother Jafar, so we have to give it time and we have to do our best.
it's very hard,
Yes.
It really, really.
It's very hard.
when
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
close.
It's very hard. But then, one of the points of submission is that, we have to submit, to the will of God. If they are supposed to be guided, they will be guided. If not, well, they won't be guided, So that's it. And we have to submit to either case,
can you guys hear me?
Yes, mashallah, brother. Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so I was saying that, mashallah, we read a lot of verses, and so let's also try to make an effort to comment on, some of the verses. And if you guys have any questions, before we go into more off-topic things, mashallah.
Shall I make a
These
summary?
verses are, subhanallah, like very inspiring and strengthening, for believers for these tests. So I think there's lots of lessons for us.
Shall I make a summary? A quick summary?
Sure.
Yeah. So the verses were about, giving that God promises victory for the believers, that we should trust God and know that God controls everything, even if you are in small numbers, and if there is a war, we should know that God promises the victory. God was talking about the hypocrites, people who say that they believe, and when war comes to them, they stayed home, they didn't go to war. And after, when the war was finished and the believers have won the war, they also wanted to share of the spoils, and they wanted to come with the believers and take it, but God told them not to. We talked. So about refusing and believing in God and His messengers, the test for early generations, that people at that time were tested with their lives, right? They need to go to war, and in our time it's a little bit different than that. That's what we learned from the Messenger of the Covenant. One of the other titles were victory guaranteed for the believers. But like it's mainly about putting your trust in God, supporting God's messenger, and in difficult times still upholding the commandments of God. So when there is victory and you can stop the war, even if you are at that moment the one who won the war, you should immediately stop it. Basically, these were the things that we were talking, and God was also saying that you can go to heaven if you uphold the commandments of God, and if you don't, be careful of having the retribution, hellfire, for eternity. And that the messengers, the job of the messengers, we talked about it. One of the most important things, that they are a witness, they are warners, and they are how do you say it? What is the word? They give good news. Let's say they give good news.
Bearers of good news.
Yeah, bearers of good news.
Yeah, mashallah, I wanted to comment on the verses that have to do with the sedentary Arabs. We are not dealing with Arabs necessarily, but there are hypocrites that unfortunately, call themselves submitters, and they what they do is that they put fear in your heart, even if you're trying to, mashallah, follow the word of God and obey one God alone. They come to you, with like superficial good intention. They smile, they are very kind, and then start putting fear in your heart. That, for instance, something very funny happened to me. It was very early in submission, and for me, as a new submitter who was doing her contact prayers in a U.S. university, I was trying, and somebody came to me and he said, we shouldn't talk about the submission, and we shouldn't. And she called herself a submitter, and she was under this illusion that she was a submitter. And she said that we shouldn't talk, and you might lose your job. And and she said that God says in the Quran that we should protect ourselves. And I said, okay, so which verse is that? And she said that it's the verse that talks about you wearing armor and protect yourself in a war. And I said, we're not in a war, we are in a very peaceful country that you're, allowed to do anything you want to do. And, I was like having the same feeling as Brother Salami is having. I was also a little bit agitated. And she said, wow, why are you, acting like this? You should be peaceful. And I said, like, you're, putting fear in my heart. And she said, you're going to lose your job. Imagine this conversation is going on between, so-called submitter and a new submitter, and said you should protect your job. And when I said like, God has given me this job, and he is gonna inshallah protect the job, and he has given me the security, she immediately said, what if you lose it? And I said, okay, I'm gonna lose it, no problem. And she said, okay, so if you think you're gonna lose it, so it's okay, you can act like a submitter and do your contact prayer in this university. And I was like, this exactly reminds me of these sedentary Arabs who were waiting for, the hypocrites who were waiting for their, fellow submitters to lose the war and to even get killed. So unfortunately, we might not be in an actual war, but there's this war going on among the, when you're dealing with hypocrites. And when you're dealing with disbelievers, it's easy to tell, but with the, hypocrites, it's more difficult. And the only thing that saves us is that we are loyal to God, and we don't, we trust God fully. And we know that when he promises victory for the believers, he actually means that. He's not, his promise is not like a human promise. And if you are a believer, mashallah, he protects you. So even if we are dealing with, submitters, we still should, be aware based on these verses we studied today that they might be, in their hearts, they might not be as sincere as they are. And they might be very friendly, but still put fear in your heart. So whenever you feel like somebody is putting fear in your heart, because fear is the tool of Satan, we should stay away from them, inshallah, until they are guided. So this is one comment I wanted to say, that we are not in actual war, but still it's going on.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, mashallah.
And I also wanted
MashaAllah.
and I also wanted to mention something about verse 10. You shall support God's messengers. So obviously this goes back to the time that the messenger is alive. But also, I would think that especially for our case, since we have the complete message and we have like everything from the messenger of covenant, the submitter's perspective, we have the videos, we have the audios, okay? So that's upon us, that's I would say a responsibility upon us to support the messenger of God. If some people come along and say that, no, we're not listening, especially the hypocrites, no, we're not listening to audios or videos, or they're making flimsy excuses to run away from the message of God that has been stated clearly by his messenger. We have to support the messenger of God by actually propagating and explaining, I would say, the message which has been stated by the messenger of God. I think this is also a form of supporting God's messenger. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that we need to pay attention to how we can make the, for example, the idea of insurance. The idea of insurance is clearly stated by Dr. Rashad Khalifa, and so we, for example, one of the things that we could do to support the messenger of God is to basically transcribe the files, the audio files, and then, for example, publish them. You know what I mean? So something along those lines. My point is that we have to do that, and this is like a responsibility upon us, mashallah. Or even translate them, for the people whose language is not English or are not good with English. If you could, first of all, have all the transcripts, inshallah, and then translate them, to different languages, so that all people would be able to understand the message. Because as we know, the majority of the people are still going to come, until the end of the world, 2280. So the majority of the people are still going to come, and there's going to be a lot of people in different countries, and not necessarily all of them would be able to understand English, So we have to, inshallah, strive in this path. And this is, I think it's very important, because this is the final message, MashaAllah.
When you say this is the final message, what do you mean? This is the final?
Oh, I mean final scripture. I mean
okay.
The final
Okay,
scripture, yes. And then the messenger came, and then of course the possibility exists that there will be other messengers after the messenger of covenant, and definitely, I mean, if we are alive at that point, that another messenger of God comes with clear proofs and miracle that absolutely shows that he is the messenger of God, we have to support him. And if we are not alive, then at least we could do stuff, to propagate the message as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, mashallah, one of the things that we are doing, which is very good, is the streaming of the sessions, so these will stay. So if somebody comes along and starts and wants to understand what's happening, they would have lots of hours of videos that they could listen to, and then they can come to their own conclusions. MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. I see the YouTube channel God Alone TV has 2,100 subscribers right now. I always like wish that all of them be here, like like not all of them, but at least like it's a little bit sad seeing those things, those numbers there, really like small number for when you compare the world population.
Well,
Like like
yeah,
like at least like 30, 40 every week, like increasing. I really want to see that. I wish this. I kind
inshallah.
of like.
Inshallah, yes. I mean, but the path to, as the messenger mentioned, the path to hell is wide open, And if you look on the internet, you see like a nonsense video coming up and it has like 20 million views, Completely
Wow, yeah.
nonsense, but it has 20 million views. But it's really hard for people to sit down and think and listen, and they like if you tell them that, oh, this is the real deal, this is the matter of eternal happiness or eternal misery, they would say, nah, I prefer to watch the nonsense video, So well, what can we do, we can
They are
we can
enjoying
only,
temporarily then.
yes, enjoy the nonsense video. What can we do? Inshallah.
Sure. So, just also wanted to point out, I just noticed this. So, like, if you have the latest version of the app, previously you couldn't go back to the app while you were in the study. But now, if you click on the study, there is a down arrow on iOS as well. So you click on it, and it minimizes the window, and you can see like the previous window is still not very optimized. I mean, it can still be improved, but at least the functionality is now there. So inshallah, in the coming versions, hopefully that will be more improved.
MashaAllah, brother.
MashaAllah. So, my brother, are you doing these things alone? Like kind of.
Yeah.
MashaAllah. It's a really good effort. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank God.
Yeah, but he's not alone, right? God is with him, inshallah.
Yeah, God is with me.
Of course.
MashaAllah.
No doubt. No doubt about that.
So you guys are all with me. Alhamdulillah. We're all together. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something, and also, so we have like the English subtitle for the videos of Dr. Rashad Khalifa, the 50 videos that we have for Dr. Rashad Khalifa, the sermons, as well as the those documentaries that he's talking about evolution or in defense of Bible, or King of Chaos. So the transcription, the English transcription is out. And then you can simply, as you are watching the video, you can look at the subtitle, which makes it way easier for you to understand what is actually happening. I mean, or if you are missing some information. So also I suggest watching the video of the 50th video, which is for the Arabic lesson that Dr. Rashad Khalifa is teaching. That one also, mashallah, I was able to finish the English transcription for it. So now that one has a subtitle as well.
Mashallah.
And mashallah, you guys are also working on the audios, right?
Yes, I haven't started yet, but inshallah I will start as soon as I'm done with the correction of the transcriptions, because I want to make sure that there are no misspellings or wrong word. Inshallah, I'm working my way backward. I'm right now I'm done with video 22, so I'm going to video 21 and then going backward. When I'm done,
halfway done.
Yes. Inshallah, when I'm done with the correction of the transcriptions, inshallah, I would start the transcriptions for the audios. They are really, like treasure,
Yeah, and God willing, once these transcriptions are done, then we will make them searchable inside the app. So
inshallah,
it will make it a lot easier for people to
Can you do also
topics.
Turkish, brother Masood?
Inshallah.
Can you do also Turkish, brother Masood? No? Is there? Farsi is like
well,
close to Turkish?
yeah, I can. I'm doing Farsi as well. So I have done, mashallah. Shima and I have done 6 of the videos. So from the beginning, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 have Farsi subtitle.
Jafar, you can ask ChatGPT to do it for you.
Ah, I think I will.
And I wanted to also comment on verse 22, victory guaranteed for the believers. So if the disbelievers ever fought you, if the disbelievers ever fought you, they would turn around and flee. They have no Lord and Master. They have no helper. So the reason, I mean, that we are, mashallah, we feel like happy and we feel, mashallah, solid for striving in the path of God is first and foremost the grace and mercy of God on us that we have this feeling, or else it would have been a very big burden for us to do these things, you know. But it's not a burden for us, mashallah, because we actually know that there is something behind it. So, but those people who are actually disbelievers, they have no Lord and Master. You know, even Satan is not like their master. You know, even that master is lying to them all the time and is not going to give them anything. So that's why they have no Lord and Master.
So this also reminds me. Oh,
Sorry,
sorry. This also reminds me of how some traditional Muslims, the corrupted Muslims, think that the rest of the world are disbelievers, and like, for instance, you see how at the airport, the women who are wearing that unreasonable hijab, from their head to the toes, and they complain that why are they being searched? They're being disgraced, or nobody's honoring them, and they're so holy. And these are the things that remind us that if they're truly believers, they don't go through all this trouble, and they are believers in a made-up religion, a sect that Satan has um, you know, um, fabricated and created, and they are under this illusion that they are very holy. And in the rest of the world, like in the US, the disbelievers are searching them, and they shouldn't treat them like that. And then they start, publishing articles on how the believers are being, persecuted in other countries. And if they think deeper, they understand that they are not truly believers in what God has ordered, has commanded. Otherwise, they would be just a normal, human being, wearing regular clothing, modest clothing, and they wouldn't be persecuted, and they would be victorious all the time, like every second. So these ideas that Satan is putting out there, like also with like certain religious minorities, that they are being persecuted for like believing that Jesus is the Son of God, or God, this Trinity idea, that they are being persecuted in other countries, like I'm talking about the Middle East. They are also, under this impression that they are believers, whereas they are not. So whoever is a believer in Satan, we see that they are being persecuted all over the world. But mashallah, if you are a believer in God alone, you're not persecuted, and you are, you might go through tests, and God, you're in God's hand the whole time, and nobody, can, put a scratch on you. And mashallah, this is what we can feel as believers in God alone. So if we hear that some religious minority is being persecuted or anything, it's good that we study what their belief is, and if we go deeper, we will see that they're most probably, idol worshippers, and that's why they're being persecuted. Otherwise, as the verses said today, the believers are victorious all the time. MashaAllah.
MashaAllah, yes, absolutely. And all the things which is going on, like within Palestine and Israel, in Syria, in Yemen, you could see
in
that,
Turkey.
exactly. Like all of these countries are saying that, oh, we are
Iran,
true,
Pakistan,
we are,
all these countries.
yeah. It's just like completely all of them are wrong, you know. That's the point, you know. And none of them is right. Like, for example, the Jewish people, they're wrong. The Sunni people, they are wrong. The Shia people, they are wrong. The Sufi people, they are wrong. So like that's the point. All of them are wrong, and that's what it is. As Shima mentioned, they get persecuted. You know, that's what it is. And you see
Yeah,
many of these.
subhanallah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, subhanallah, the message from today's study, subhanallah, is very strong about God's victory and support in this world for the believers. Whether it's fighting wars or not, in any situation, the thing is that the bottom line is that God has promised us that if we do our part, if we strongly put our trust in God, if we play our cards right, and do what's pleasing to God the most, that He will always come to. He will keep His promise, and God says it's easy for Him to do. So it's really up to us to just always remember that. I mean, obviously there may be people, and there may be times, for example, when things will appear to be tough or difficult, or even impossible. But this is just, obviously believers will be put to this test. Part of their admissions test to be put in those situations as well, where the situation looks very difficult, But our test at that point is to remember that we have to put our trust in God completely. And if we do that, and we truly do that, with our full heart, that God will, keep His part of the deal, and He will keep His promise. Of course, God says He never breaks His promise, and so He is reminding us over and over with this surah that's titled Victory, that God is actually guaranteeing it. So I mean, there's people that guarantee things, and we still put so much faith in it because we say that they have a guarantee, But there's nothing stronger than a guarantee from God. We know that God will never break His word, and it's God's guarantee. So we should just trust in God with our eyes closed, and do what's pleasing to Him, and He will support us no matter what.
Yes, mashallah, brother. Yes, absolutely.
And mashallah, for the amount of security and happiness that he grants the submitters, it's like nothing that we do. The submitters are not doing much. It's just even the commandments are not that difficult to follow, mashallah, by His grace. These are like gifts from God that He gives us, and we get the gifts, and on top of that, we are granted with happiness and security and guidance. So we are not confused throughout the day, and we have a plan. Our life, our day revolves around like the 5 contact prayers, and then we are not just you know for instance, if you're free, you always have something to do. You always have something. At least the least you can do is to open the Quran and read the Quran, or there might be projects you're involved in, and these are all gifts from God, and he makes sure that the submitters are gifted. They're granted those gifts, and they are always peaceful, and they don't get agitated the way you see a non-submitter is agitated most of the time. MashaAllah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the every God has made everything easy. God has made the religion easy, and but the thing is, there's about the thing is the admission test, is meant to be very exacting. It's meant to test you to your fullest, you know, and especially then the messenger of the covenant also talks about how like your final test, you go through a series of tests, and then he says even like your final test is like supposed to be one of the hardest, right? And we see from the Quran when the messengers and the believers were tested, they were shaken up. They said, "Where's God's victory?" And God says, just when they despair and they think that they have been defeated, God's victory comes. So it's it's something that you have to really work hard and prepare for and be strong and not underestimate it also. Inshallah. So if there are no other comments or questions, God willing, we can conclude our study.
Yes, mashallah.
We should put everybody to sleep successfully. All right, so thank you all for joining. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And thank you, Brother Jaffer. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
God bless you. Salaam alaikum.
God bless you. Assalamu alaikum.
God bless you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, everybody.
Assalamu alaikum.